everybody. This is Michael Savage. Thus spake Zarathustra. Today's topic is both about the war in Iran, with Iran, and not about the war with Iran. And I hope you'll stay with me as we pursue this subject. It's a very complex subject in one way and simple in another. To some people, it's simple. We should be at war. We shouldn't be at war. To others who know history, know this is not a new war. This is the continuation of an ancient battle between good and evil. And we in America are on the side of good. The leaders of Iran are on the side of evil. The people of Iran want to be free. And that is what this is about. You can make it about Donald Trump if you wish. It's not about Donald Trump. He's an individual who came along, and in his mind, in his thinking, the best I can understand, he decided that it's now or never. Either the forces of darkness and of evil, the 7th century mullahs, are for once and all eliminated, or else they will conquer the entire world, as has happened before. If you study history, and I'll go back just for a brief interval, I know history is boring to most people. You have to understand that in only 25 years, the Arabs conquered a large portion of the earth, not through love, not through the teachings of Jesus, but through violence, fire, rape, murder. You can study how the Byzantine army was smashed at the Battle of the Yarmouk in 634. You can see how the Emperor Heraclius was defeated in the Persian War, and his new conquests in Syria, Damascus, Palmyra, Antioch, Jerusalem, and the rest fell almost immediately to the Muslim. And then at that time, after they were conquered, they were converted into Muslims. Then the Muslims turned east. The Persians had found a great general in Rustam. We never heard of him. They had a great host with a force of great elephants. And for 3 days, they fought the Arabs at Qadisiyah in 637. They lost, and they fled in a headlong rout. Then Persia was conquered, and the Muslim Empire pushed far into western Turkestan and eastward until it met the Chinese. Egypt then fell without resistance to the new Muslim conquerors, who, full of a fanatical belief in the sufficiency of the Quran, wiped out the vestiges of the book copying industry of the Alexandria Library. They then conquered along the north coast of Africa to the Straits of Gibraltar and Spain. Spain was invaded in 710. The Pyrenees Mountains were reached in 720. In 732, the Arab advance had reached the center of France, but here it was stopped for good in the Battle of Poitiers, and they were pushed back as far as the Pyrenees again. Finally, the ancient French had stood up to the Muslim invasion. So you can study the history on your own, and you'll find out that after these early battles, the Arabs had a great empire with its capital now at Damascus in Syria of today, and it stretched from Spain to China. Spain to China. In Persia, which we are talking about, you know it as Iran, the excited Arabic mind, the intellectuals, came into contact not only with the Zoroastrian and Christian doctrines, but with scientific Greek literature preserved not only in Greek, but in Syrian translations. There's more to be talked about. There's a big history here. What happened is after the ancient Muslim conquests pollinated in these nations they had conquered, the intolerant self-sufficiency of the early days of faith, which made the Quran seem the only possible book, was dropped. And then learning sprang up everywhere in the footsteps of the Arab conquerors. And now we come to the topic of today, which is Iran. What was the ancient religion of Iran? It was not Islam. What religion did the ancient Persians follow before the Muslim conquest in the 7th century is basically what we're talking about today. Ancient Persians predominantly practiced Zoroastrianism, an ancient monotheistic faith founded by the prophet Zoroaster. It was the official state religion for major empires, focusing on the worship of Ahura Mazda, the wise Lord, and the dualism between truth and falsehood, good and evil. The core beliefs of Zoroastrianism emphasized free will. Very important you remember this. The ancient Persians believed in free will. They believed in ethical living and the cosmic struggle between Ahura Mazda and the destructive spirit of Angra Mainyu. Zoroastrians worshipped in fire temples where sacred fires were maintained as symbols of purity and divine light. Now, while Zoroastrianism was dominant in ancient Persia, Persia was also home to minority communities of Christians, mainly Nestorian Christians, and Jews also. After the 651 conquest of the Sasanian Empire, Zoroastrianism declined, and Islam became the dominant religion. Although in Islam today, you will find people practicing Zoroastrianism. Now, let me go back for one moment before we continue today to the music. I'm sure you all know the music. You've heard the music, very famous music of Also Sprach Zarathustra by Strauss. You remember it in the movie 2001, the great epic. We all watched this movie. It changed the mind of the West. And here it is again. Wake up. Unbelievable. The human mind can create this. I have to play it out to the beginning. I'm sorry. I know that you'd rather me move on with words. I have to listen to this. Makes you glad to be a human being, to think that a human being could write such music. Strauss could write such music, and that there could be people to this day who can still play this music in this age of degeneracy where everything has collapsed. Rap music, garbage, filth, trash, nothing pushed into the heads of the entire world. If ever there was a piece of music to listen to every morning when you wake up and bless the day and thank God for living, it would be a piece like this. Now, this piece of music is related to what I'm talking about. It's called Thus Spake Zarathustra. It was based upon Friedrich Nietzsche's book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. Nietzsche was perhaps one of the most influential philosophers in the world, very revolutionary, very subversive. He was a subversive thinker in Western philosophy. And this book, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, remains his most famous and influential work. In it, he describes how the ancient Persian prophet Zarathustra descends from his solitude in the mountains to tell the world that God is dead and that the Superman, the human embodiment of divinity, is his successor. Nietzsche's utterance, God is dead, His insistence that the meaning of life is to be found in purely human terms, and his doctrine of the Superman and the will to power were all later seized upon and unrecognizably twisted by, among others, Nazi intellectuals. And with incredible intensity and poetic brilliance, Nietzsche argues that the meaning of existence is not to be found in religious pieties or meek submission to authority, but in an all-powerful life force, passionate, chaotic, and free. It's astounding. It's enough to make you think about what we're living through. What does this have to do? What does this have to do with what's going on in the world today? What is this war about? Is it a war for oil? I don't think so. On one hand, all wars are economic. Let's not fool ourselves. Whether you look at ancient skirmishes between villages, they were economic. But it's not purely economic. It's a spiritual war. It's a spiritual religious war. Zarathustra, Greek rendering of the Avestan name Zarathustra, known in Persian as Zartusht. I've told you what it means. Let's go to Iran right now and talk about that for a moment. Let's ask ourselves who we are fighting, why they hate the West, why they hate Israel. And let's ask ourselves when this cancer of radical Islam truly began to spread. The cancer of radical Islam truly began to spread under Jimmy Carter when the Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, was overthrown, and the radical clerics who we are fighting today emerged in Iran, seized the nation and turned it into a dark age, brought it into a dark age. Now, who was the Shah? Was he himself not a Muslim? Actually, he was a Muslim. Shah Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, whose son, by the way, wants to now run the country. I'm not so sure that's a good idea. It's a separate story. Was actually born into a Muslim family. He identified as a Shia Muslim, but his reign was characterized by modernization, secularization, and policies that often conflicted with the radical throwback Shia clergy, which led to the 1979 revolution. The overthrow of the Shah because of Jimmy Carter undermined him. And then what happened is history. The fanatics took over the nation. So if you see modernized Gulf nations today, such as Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, why are they being attacked today by Iran? Aren't they their fellows? Aren't they also Muslims? Well, yes, they are. But first of all, they are not Shia Muslims. Those in these Gulf states are another sect of Islam, Sunni Muslims. And in addition to that, these Arab states are modern states. They're closer to being like Israel socially than they are to being like Iran under the throwbacks. So Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, the last Shah of Iran, was born into the Pahlavi dynasty, and they all have Muslim roots. And although he occasionally invoked divine support for his reign, he was not considered a deeply religious ruler by many of his contemporaries, and he pursued a heavily westernized secular state. And along came Ayatollah Khomeini, which at the time in 1979 undermined him and helped with the United States under Jimmy Carter and the left-wing vermin, who today are doing the same thing all over again. The left wing, the Democrats, are doing it all over again. Think about this. Again, the Democrats are on the side of the Islamic Revolution, not on the side of the Iranians who are screaming to be free. Never forget that. And so Pahlavi was overthrown. Khomeini took over, and his secular Western-aligned monarchy, the monarchy, there it was gone. And what replaced it was a dictatorship of the mullahs. So now we have a war going on all over again, an ancient war, a modern war that has its roots going back thousands of years. And as I've tried to tell you today, in the short time that I've had with you that the ancient Persians did not follow Islam. It was only after the 7th century Muslim conquest that ancient Persians were converted to Islam. They practiced Zoroastrianism, small sects of Christians, and small sects, communities of Jewish people were found in ancient Persia. The main thing to remember is Zoroastrianism emphasized free will. The mullahs do not believe in free will. The Zoroastrians in ancient Persia practiced a religion that believed in ethical living. The mullahs don't believe in ethical living. They believe in the sole sufficiency of one book above all. Nothing else matters to them. And so Trump steps in. I will bring in Trump now, and we'll talk about him for a minute. People hate Trump no matter what he does. I saw a little YouTube today of 2 sexual deviants. I have to call them that because there's no other words for them. A big fat man dressed as a woman who identifies as a trans, who says that women are more free in Iran than they are in America, and he wants to go, or she wants to go to Iran. These are deluded, insane people. They hate Donald Trump. They want to go to Iran. So someone tried to raise money for them to go to Iran. They said, good, we'll go to Iran, but we'll do a few stopovers first. We'll travel first. How do you think these demented, psychotic, mentally ill people would be treated in Iran? Do we have to guess? Radical Islam does not accept such behavior. They kill them. They hang them. They hang them from cranes. Chickens for KFC. And so when you see in America that is this confused because of, it's actually ignorance in the media. It's not that all of them are so evil. It's that most of them are stupid. And finally figured out not all of the people in media are really that evil. They're just dumb and lazy. They don't even study the history of what's going on, as I am trying to do for you now, as I did for 30 years on the radio. I brought a degree of education that was missing in broadcasting. I didn't say I was the smartest person on the planet, but I had enough education to know that we had to study things before talking about them. We don't have that anymore. We have nothing but talking heads. They'll actually take the side of the mullahs over Donald Trump because they hate Donald Trump. This is how sick the American media has become. Now, on the other hand, you could say that Trump is a biblical figure. You could call him a Constantine trying to save Western civilization. Maybe in his deepest heart he is. We know the other elements. We know about all the other negatives. The self-dealing, the self-aggrandizement. It's all there. But I will tell you this, all great men do the same thing. None of them are saints. In my study of history, there have been no human saints, perhaps except in the religious world. In the political world, there have been no saints. There are some great men, but they're all involved with their own egos, or they wouldn't be where they are. And they all try to take what they can for themselves along the way. I don't think there have been very many exceptions to that particular idea. So putting that aside, spiritually, Trump is like Constantine in an epic final battle trying to save Western civilization, because if we lose this war against the mullahs, and I'm going to go into that in a moment, can we lose this war? Is it sure we're going to win this war? Are you sure that they have been defeated? Are you sure that despite our phenomenal military and advanced technology, they're not just waiting us out? Are you sure of that? After so many billions of dollars of weapons were given to Ukraine to defeat Russia because of the liberalism in America who wanted Russia defeated at all costs, we kept feeding Ukraine. Let's put that aside. And now our stocks of anti-ballistic missiles are depleted. Everyone knows that. They know it. We know it. It's in the media. So the mullahs, you think they're stupid? They know it also. So we're all hearing it now. They're using less expensive short-range missiles to continue to draw out our more expensive $4 million missiles. They fire a $300,000 missile. We fire a $4 million missile. Who's happiest? The hosts on Fox News. Jack Keane, for example, a military-industrial complex How can a contractor hold a job on Fox News? General Jack Keane. He's been screaming for war for as long as I've seen this double talking bastard. I've never seen anything like it. How does Murdoch keep him on the network without having a disclosure over his head says, I make money off war? How is this possible? Because I've taught you in the past to look out for the interlocking corporate directorships. If you study the corporate board of News Corporation, and then you study the corporate board of some of the biggest defense contractors, you will find that some of the directors sit on the same boards, not only of Fox News, but of other news companies, and sit on defense contractors as well. That's called interlocking corporate directorships. But I'm getting into an area that I didn't intend to get into. It's because most people in the media are uneducated to begin with. They're not trained to think. They're trained to read scripts. They're entertainers. They're actors. Some of them look very good at what they're doing, but they don't even know what the hell they're talking about. Some of them are on the right side. Some are on the wrong side, but they're really on no side. They're just script readers. There are a few of us who have spent our lives studying and trying to understand what is actually going on. And we have reached out to you, the American people, and elsewhere to try to explain it. And that's why today I have tried to explain this war that is ongoing is much deeper than it may appear to be on the surface. And yet, once again, the left, the Democrats, are on the side of darkness and evil. Once again, we see, either through stupidity or worse, darkness itself. They have taken the sides of the mullahs because they hate Donald Trump, and they think it will give them advancement in the political arena. They are mistaken. They are mistaken, because if we lose this war against the mullahs, for whatever the reason may be, all of the West is doomed in the near future. It will all fall, just as I told you at the beginning. What happened in the beginning, in 25 years, this astonishing story, the age of the Arabs. I told you that story. In only 25 years, in the great days of the Arabs, they swept from Spain all the way to Persia. And they did so through killing, murder, rape, fire. They burned everything in their path, raped, murdered, just like we saw happened earlier. Study the 7th century and see what happened, the great days of the Arabs. So you have modern Arab countries who also are at war with the throwback mullahs. You have the 6 modernized Arab nations: Jordan, UAE, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain. These are all highly advanced modern Arab nations. They're all Muslim, but they are modern Muslim nations. That's what they have in common. They're advanced Muslim nations. Iran was captured in the 1979 Islamic Revolution because of Jimmy Carter and liberals like you. Weak-kneed liberals took the side of the Muslim fanatics and undermined the Shah, overthrew his regime. He had to flee to the West, and you let Khomeini take over and destroy the nation. And he took an advanced nation called Iran and turned it backwards hundreds and hundreds of years. I don't have to spell out what happened. Ask any Iranian, they'll tell you what happened. And so the same forces are operational today. Now, you can study all of this on your own. You can read Thus Spake Zarathustra by Nietzsche if you'd like. It's a great book. I actually may buy it for the first time. I read the philosophy of Nietzsche in college. I never understood it. Didn't understand a word of it. Too young. Youngsters don't really understand very much. They can't. Their minds are not here. The minds of the youth are not here. They're here. That's what the minds of the youth are. They're below the waist, not above the neck. Luckily, when you get older, some of the mind moves up. And as we get older, we can see things more clearly. Hopefully, the impulses below the neck do not leave us until the last days. Nietzsche, Thus Spake Zarathustra, with the stirring music. I think I can conclude the broadcast now by saying to you, I think I've accomplished and covered a large number of topics. I didn't intend to cover all of these things at once, but I did. They are all related. And the topic fundamentally was Islam the religion of the ancient Iranians? No. The ancient Persians followed Zoroastrianism, an ancient monotheistic faith. And the ancient Persians also, at the time, before the Muslim conquest in 651, Zoroastrianism, as we're talking about, was practiced as the dominant religion. But there was also, in Persia, minority religious communities, such as those of Nestorian Christians and Jews in ancient Persia. And now, in Iran, only one book in the world of religion is permitted. And that's the book that the left wing in Europe and America doesn't even practice itself. Most of them will be cast into a well if that religion were practiced in their own country. Sure, it soon will be in England and in France. They've been conquered and capitulated because, A, they didn't want to fight. They were warned. Everyone who tried to warn them was called a Nazi, a right-winger, a fascist. Sound familiar to you? Okay, I think I've said enough. You can study all of this on your own if you'd like. I did want to tell you a few other things before I conclude this broadcast. People have asked me to reprint God, Faith, and Reason, and I did. And it's, I think, my most important of my 29 published books. I would say Secrets of Fijian Medicine may live longer. Secrets of Fijian Medicine will live for hundreds of years because of the information in it, but it's not for everyone. It's a technical book. God, Faith, and Reason is a more popular discussion of how people of faith can have reason as well. It's not well understood that we can have reason and have faith. That, in other words, to faithfully follow a religion doesn't mean you have to be unreasonable. You can use logic and still be faithful to God. That's what God, Faith, and Reason is. It's about one man's struggle to find God, in plain English. God, Faith, and Reason. It's out there for you. I hope you'll pick it up for the coming important holidays in the world today. And this is Michael Savage finally saying, well, let me close with that music again. Let me go back to what I opened with. I love it so much. In fact, I'm going to try and play it every morning. Strauss was so moved by Nietzsche's book that he wrote this piece of music. Thus spake Zarathustra. Let's hear it again for 1 minute as I go out the door, okay? Let's raise the old volume ski. Thank you for listening. I'm not going to say another word. You can tune out anytime you'd like. But this is going to run the entire time of the overture. Thus spake Zarathustra! God bless America. May God bless America in this epic battle for the survival of